In the winter of 1934, my youngest brother Calvin had a cough so deep it scared all of us. That rattling, wet cough that turns a mother's face white. My father had been without work since 1931. We had not seen a doctor in 3 years, not because we did not want to, because a doctor's visit cost 50 cents, and 50 cents in 1934 meant 2 days of food for 8 children. My mother did not panic. She walked into the kitchen. She pulled a tin of dry mustard from the pantry shelf, tore an old flannel shirt into strips, boiled a pot of water, and mixed a paste. Within the hour, Calvin had a mustard plaster on his chest and a warm blanket over that. By morning, he was breathing easier. I do not tell you this to say doctors are not needed. They are. But for a whole generation of Americans, medicine was not something you bought at a drugstore. It was something you made, something that grew in the yard, something your mother taught you and her mother taught her, going back further than any of us can trace. My mother raised 8 children with almost no medical help and knew exactly what to reach for. Most of what she used cost next to nothing. Some of it cost nothing at all. Today I'm going to share 7 of those remedies with you. My mother kept a very specific shelf in that kitchen. Not food, remedies, dried herbs in paper bags, tins of powder, a quart of apple cider vinegar she made herself every fall, a jar of lard, a piece of beeswax wrapped in cloth, dried ginger root, and willow bark she stripped from the trees along the creek and dried herself in the shed every summer. We had 8 children and no family doctor. The closest hospital was 11 miles away. Might as well have been 100 with no car and no money for one. When someone got sick, you handled it at home. When someone got a deep cut, you handled it at home. Fever, chest cold, stomach trouble, a bad wasp sting, home. And here is what I need you to understand. These were not superstitions. These were methods developed over a century of practical use by people who could not afford to be wrong. My grandmother used them. My mother used them on her children. I used them on mine. They worked because they had to work. I still use several of them today. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Edna Mae. I was born in 1928 and I grew up during the Great Depression. On this channel, I share what my mother taught me. Depression-era recipes, food preservation, home remedies, and the kind of everyday wisdom that kept families alive through the hardest years this country ever saw. If that is the kind of thing you want to hold on to, hit the subscribe button right now. I put out a new video every week. Now let me show you what was on that shelf. Number 1, onion and honey cough syrup. The first thing my mother reached for when someone started coughing was the onion jar. Every fall, she would slice 2 or 3 large onions, layer them into a wide-mouthed mason jar with raw honey, or just white sugar when honey was scarce, seal the lid loosely, and set it on the counter overnight. By morning, the onion had done its work. The liquid draws out, the honey pulls it down, and you are left with a dark, slightly sharp, gently sweet syrup pooled at the bottom of the jar. 1 teaspoon for a child, 1 tablespoon for an adult. Every few hours, the onion does the work. It contains compounds that calm inflammation deep in the throat and airways. The honey coats and soothes. My mother could not have told you any of that. She just knew it worked because her mother had told her so, and her mother before that. A bottle of cough syrup today costs $8 or $10. An onion costs 30 cents. A jar of honey lasts a month and works for far more than coughs. My rule has always been this. The moment someone in this house starts to cough, I slice an onion. I do it before I do anything else. Number 2, the mustard plaster. This is what my mother made for Calvin the night of that terrible cough, and it is the remedy I think of first when I remember how she handled sickness. Dry mustard powder, the cooking kind, nothing else, mixed with plain white flour at a 4-to-1 ratio. 4 parts flour, 1 part mustard. Do not skip the flour. Dry mustard applied directly to skin will burn. I learned that lesson myself when I was 9 years old and will not forget it. Mix in warm water until you have a thick paste, not too wet and not crumbling dry. Spread the paste across 1/2 of a folded square of cloth. Fold the other half over it so the paste is enclosed. Apply the cloth packet to the chest. Cover with a warm blanket. Leave it 15 to 20 minutes, no longer. You are looking for redness and warmth, not blistering. The mustard draws blood to the surface. More circulation means more heat, which loosens congestion in the chest. With a pot of water steaming on the stove nearby, the combination opens airways that nothing else seemed to touch. My mother called it drawing the cold out. A tin of dry mustard powder costs less than $2 and keeps for years on a pantry shelf. My rule has always been this: at the first sign of a chest cold settling in, the mustard tin comes off the shelf. Do not wait until it is deep. Number 3, apple cider vinegar for fever and sore throat. We made our own apple cider vinegar every autumn from the bruised and overripe apples that fell from the trees. My mother kept 4 or 5 quarts of it on the cellar shelf and used it for cooking, cleaning, and medicine, sometimes all 3 in the same afternoon. For a fever, she would dilute it half and half with cool water, soak cloth strips in the mixture, and wrap them around the calves and ankles, then a dry blanket on top of that. The evaporation pulls heat away from the body. Within an hour, the fever would usually begin to ease. She also used it on the forehead during the worst nights. For a sore throat, you gargle. Half a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in a glass of warm water every 2 to 3 hours. The acidity changes the environment in the throat and makes it harder for infection to hold on. My mother called it putting the throat in the wrong condition for sickness to grow. That was her phrase, the wrong condition. You can make your own apple cider vinegar from kitchen scraps if you have apple peels and cores and patience. A quart bought at the store costs about $3. Either way, it belongs in a house with children. My rule has always been this: vinegar before anything else. It costs almost nothing. It sits ready on the shelf, and for most fevers and sore throats, it is enough. Now, before we go further, did your grandmother keep remedies like these? Was there something in her kitchen that she reached for without hesitation and you still remember it? Write it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you are not subscribed yet, please do that now. There is more coming. Number 4, plantain leaf poultice. Not the banana, the weed. It grows in every yard in America. Wide oval leaves, pale green, with ribs running parallel from stem to tip. It grows in the cracks of sidewalks, in garden paths, along roadsides, in every field that has ever been walked on. You have stepped over it 10,000 times in your life without knowing its name. We called it waybread. Some called it ribwort. My mother just pointed at it and said that one. For cuts, stings, deep splinters, and swollen insect bites. Wash a fresh leaf, chew it or crush it between 2 clean stones until it becomes a soft paste. Apply it directly to the wound. Wrap a strip of clean cloth over it. Leave it for 30 to 60 minutes. Plantain draws. It pulls swelling out of a sting, pulls the toxin toward the surface, pulls a splinter closer to where you can reach it. It also calms the skin around a wound and resists the kind of infection that sets into a dirty cut. We had no antiseptic cream, no ointment of any kind. When my brother stepped on a rusty nail in the summer of 1936, my mother packed the wound with crushed plantain and wrapped it tight. It healed clean. No infection, no doctor. Most people mow it down without knowing what they're throwing away. My rule has always been this: before you put anything store-bought on a cut or sting, go outside first and look for the plantain. 9 times out of 10, it is already there. Number 5, ginger tea for nausea and chills. When someone came in from the cold with shaking hands and a gray face, or when a stomach was turning the wrong direction, my mother went to the ginger tin. We kept dried ginger root in a small tin on the pantry shelf, fresh when we could get it, not often, and dried the rest of the year. A piece of dried ginger root about the size of your thumb, broken into the pot and simmered in 2 cups of water for a full 10 minutes. Strain it, add honey. Drink it as hot as you can stand it. For stomach trouble, nausea, cramps, the beginning of a stomach illness, it settles things down. For chills and the first signs of a cold coming on, it warms from the inside and opens the pores. My mother said this was the body's way of fighting. Sweating means something is working. She called it getting ahead of it. You do not wait for sickness to fully land. You give the body something to work with before it takes hold. Dried ginger keeps for a year or more. A small bag costs almost nothing. If you grow it fresh in summer, you can dry it yourself and pay nothing at all. My rule has always been this: when someone in this house looks pale or is shivering before a fever has even arrived, the ginger goes in the pot. You do not wait to be certain. Number 6, Lard and beeswax salve. In winter, everyone's hands cracked. You are working in cold air without gloves, washing in cold water, and by December, your knuckles are split open. My father's hands in the winter of 1932 were raw from the first knuckle to the wrist. My mother made a salve. She would melt a cup of rendered lard in a small pot. The fat she saved every time she cooked pork, strained and kept in a cool jar. Into the melted lard, she added a piece of beeswax about the size of a large grape. Stir until dissolved. Sometimes she added a few drops of turpentine from the hardware store or pine resin scraped from the trees out back. Pour it into a tin while still liquid. Let it cool and set overnight. The lard carries moisture back into cracked skin. The beeswax forms a seal on top so the moisture stays in and the cold stays out. The pine resin fights the small infections that get into any open crack. Applied at night before bed with cloth wrapped over the hands, the healing happens faster than you would think possible. We bought the beeswax once a year. Everything else we either rendered, scraped, or gathered ourselves. My rule has always been this: if it is cracked, seal it. Do not leave anything raw sitting open in cold air. Number 7, willow bark tea. I saved this one for last because I think it is the most remarkable thing I know. Willow trees grew along the creek behind our property. Every summer, before the heat of the season came on, my mother would strip thin branches of their outer bark and dry it in the shed. By fall, we kept a jar of it on the shelf, right next to the ginger tin. 1 tablespoon of dried willow bark simmered in 2 cups of water for a full 20 minutes. Strain it carefully, drink it slowly for headaches, for fever, for the aching in the joints that comes with cold weather or a bad chill, for the kind of pain that makes it hard to sleep through the night. Willow bark contains a compound called salicin. That is the same compound that chemists in the 1890s used to manufacture aspirin, the tablet kind that most people today take for granted. The bark is not as concentrated as a pressed tablet, so you may need a cup every 4 hours instead of 1 every 6, but it works because it is the original source of the same thing. My mother had never heard of salicin. She did not know the word aspirin until the 1940s. She just knew the tea worked because her mother had told her it worked, and her mother's mother before that. My rule has always been this: before I reach for anything sold in a store, I reach for what grew here long before any of it was packaged and priced. The willow was here first. It still works. Willow trees grow along nearly every waterway in this country. In most places, they are free. Let me bring this all back together for you. Number 1, onion and honey for coughs. Slice the onion, layer it with honey, wait overnight, take it by the spoonful. Number 2, mustard plaster for chest congestion. 4 parts flour, 1 part dry mustard powder, 15 minutes on the chest, warm blanket over that. Number 3, apple cider vinegar for fever and sore throat. Cloth compress on the legs for fever, gargle for the throat every 2 to 3 hours. Number 4, plantain leaf poultice for cuts and stings. The weed in your yard right now, crush it, apply it, wrap it. Number 5, ginger tea for nausea and chills. Simmer dried ginger a full 10 minutes, add honey, drink it as hot as you can stand. Number 6, lard and beeswax salve for cracked and damaged skin. Seal the crack, do not leave it open. Number 7, willow bark tea for headaches and fever. Simmer it 20 minutes, drink slowly. The original aspirin, free along any creek or waterway. My mother used to say that the land always provided, that if you knew how to look, everything you needed was already there. She was not being poetic, she was being practical. We had no money, so we used what we had. And 8 children came through the Depression healthy enough to grow up and have children of their own. These remedies cost almost nothing. Most of them still work today exactly as they did then. If this video was useful to you, please share it with someone who worries about medical bills, with someone who has children, with someone who just wants to know how to handle things at home. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. I put out a new video every single week. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and remember, your grandmother knew more than you think.